veins. Soon the whole world will know our names. Sharing our knowledge and freedom reign. We here for the people, you know it's our way. Setting foundations is part of the dream. It doesn't matter if you're new to the game. Listen up now, cause we all gon' say, elevate, 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 higher, elevate, 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 higher. We gon' rise up, we all gon' shine. Work through adversity, stay on the grind. Elevate, elevate, this is our time. Elevate, elevate.
Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, everyone. It's so great to have you all on one more time. It's your boy Josh, and I'm grateful to be back on with you yet again on this Thursday night. Woo! Lots to get into. You know, when we first started the show, when we told me and Reg kind of broke up and all that, and we cried and I shed tears. The issue was like, oh, Josh, are you going to be able to do a talking head show? Can you do it on your own? And I said, we'll see. But the beauty of it is we talked about it. I received a lot of emails and comments of saying, Josh, it would still be nice to bring some guests on the show. And don't worry, it took some time. I needed some adjustment, about a month, but we are back doing it. We are so grateful to have one of our friends over with us who's been a friend of the show for actually quite a bit of time. Her name is Brittany Dame, and she loves laying the smacketh down in the political sphere, formerly with Canada Proud, now doing her own thing, just going on this road, getting in the streets, talking to potential voters and what's happening, what's impacting them there in BC. There's so much going on, so much she's attracting, and she's doing a lot of great work, which we just wanted to highlight. And that was the issue. We talk to a lot of people. We talk to the people in Toronto. We talk to the people in Ottawa. We talk to the people here in Nova Scotia, of course, here where our show is based. But we haven't been able to talk to many people on the other coast. And so we will be excited to be talking here to Brittany. Brittany, how you doing? How you holding up? It's good to see you.
Hi, Josh. It's so good to see you again. It's been so long, it feels like.
It has. You know, we had that connection. I think we first met been back in April of this year, and then we kind of kept up over time, and it's grateful we had the time to be able to bring you on the show.
Yes, for sure. We actually met through Jennifer L.
That was actually, I totally forgot about that.
Yes.
She's gonna kill me for forgetting that. She's like, I introduce you to everybody, and it's true. Anyone I know in the political sphere is because of her, essentially, at this point.
Yes,
Yeah.
she was so instrumental in helping me make connections. So I'm very grateful for that.
Me too. We were grateful that we were put in touch with you, and it was cool to be able to we started over DMs and then moved into being able to actually, we got to talk in person at the CSFN.
Yes.
And our listeners got to hear me and Reg talk about it at nauseum. And but I was curious from your perspective, like what was your vibe at the CSFN? I know you've been to a few different events, but what was the April event like for you?
I feel like I've been going to events trying to recreate the fun and excitement that I had at CSFN, because it was so exciting. That was my very first conference ever. And to be thrown into that was actually so much fun. And I was impressed by how well I was at networking, because I didn't know that was a skill that I had. And it really just opened my eyes that, wow, this world is so much fun. There's so many good people, so many like minds. And I think when you're in a room of people who have the same values as you, it's so easy to connect and just enjoy yourself. So I cannot wait for April to come and we can go again. And it's been so much fun. And I'm so grateful that I got into this world.
Totally. And, that was a great, candid political response. I'll ask you this though.
Yeah.
Did you find that the conference itself had a lot of different types of conservatives? Like, do you feel like there was a wide range of different beliefs there?
You mean in terms of like there being progressive conservatives versus
like staunch conservatives?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely notice people from all over the spectrum. I typically tend to attract people around me who maybe are a little bit more my level of conservative, which is very traditional. I'd say there's definitely a lot of different opinions for sure. But it seems very like everyone's ready to move forward and be on the same page, if that makes sense.
Totally. So are you pro-Israel or no, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go there with you. Her life flashed before her eyes.
Oh my goodness.
But no, we were, it was a good time. Did I ever tell you that me and Reg were this close with Jennifer L to meeting Jagmeet Singh at that conference?
No, you did not.
Yeah, we got invited to a TikTok party. And
yes.
And Jagmeet was supposed to be there. And so Jennifer had the invite because Jennifer's Jennifer. And she's like, I'm allowed a +1. I'm going to see if they can let me bring 2. She's like, do you guys want to come to a party and meet Jagmeet Singh? I was like, duh, sure. That'd be awesome. It'd be fun to finally talk to this man.
Yeah.
And we get there and he didn't end up showing up in classic Singh fashion.
Well,
but it was what it was. At least we got to meet a bunch of different TikTok creators, which was cool. But it was interesting because there was 2 conferences happening in the city at that time. There was one with the NDP, essentially the NDP conference, and the conservative one. And so myself, Reg, and Jennifer were the only ones from the conservative one at this party. And
oh my gosh.
And everyone knew it. But people were super civil and a lot of fun. It was great to be able to break bread with everybody, having different political opinions. But it was really interesting. And we actually still keep contact with some of them as well. It was fun.
My fangirl moment was actually Jennifer L knew that I was a huge fan of Michelle Ferreri, and she messaged Michelle and she was like, my friend Brittany loves you. She wants to meet you. And then I got, I joke that it was a pity follow from Michelle Ferreri, and I got to meet her at the Wellington event, and I was like, so I was very excited to meet her. And then since now I've connected with a lot of MPs, and they're all just such really, really great people.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing with MPs in general, right? They're just kind of the regular folk for the most part. And what was it? What was like the first question or thing you said to Michelle Ferreri when you met her?
I don't remember. I think I was just like, the thing about Michelle that I love is she's so cool, because I find myself, I'm growing into it, but I find myself to be a little bit more reserved and laid back. And I love that Michelle is just a powerhouse, and she's not afraid to like go in there and just like show those men who's boss.
Show who's boss.
Yeah.
We love to see it. Well, that was the thing, right? Because I think this comes back to kind of what your background is and what you're about. Is, you kind of like, you dabbled in politics. You kind of slowly came in. We talked about at the beginning of the show, you were formerly with Canada Proud. Now you're kind of doing your own thing. Which I think is really cool. But do you want to kind of get into what your origins in the political space really were, especially for people who are kind of nervous? Especially, there's a lot of people we have who listen to our show who hate what's going on or frustrated what's happening. They listen to our show and their blood pressure will rise. And I apologize to our listeners who that happens to. But they also just are scared to speak up, scared to put themselves out there. And I know, even since I knew you, you've grown a lot in your social media presence, so being someone who wanted to stay quietly conservative, to now being a little bit more ambitious and willing to put yourself out there. What was that journey like for you?
So when I ask people, do you want to hear the generic version about how I got into politics, or do you want to hear the raw version of how I got into politics? Because there's 2 ways that I can give you a political answer. And the political answer is COVID happened. And, I realized that things were not as I thought they were. And I needed to be paying more attention to what was going on at home. And so that's how I got interested in politics. But really what happened was, last year I had a really life-changing thing that happened to me. And I decided, how am I going to meet people? How am I going to meet like-minded people? And I went to a Pierre rally last November, and I just thought, it's my friend and I, she was single at the time, and we walked in, and it was a sea of men in this in this rally, and I was like, we're the bachelorettes of this place. And so I kind of originally thought it's a good way to meet my husband, maybe, in politics. So started getting involved, wanted to volunteer, made a really good connection, which led me to Canada Proud. And then Canada Proud quickly led me to CSFN, which allowed me to meet so many amazing people. And, when the House was not sitting anymore through the summer, things kind of slowed down. And I thought, well, I'm living somewhere where there's an election that's starting very soon, and I need to get involved. I need to be boots on the ground. I need to be making as much content as I can because I want to live in a conservative province. So how can I help use my type of video marketing to attract young people, to get people involved, and turn British Columbia into a blue province? So that's kind of the long and short about how I've gotten to where I am now.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. We love that, now that you've kind of gone on your own, it's made by Brittany. Like that's the tag essentially right now.
Yes.
And what's it been like kind of doing your own thing and getting on the boots on the ground, as you're saying, and getting these videos? People can go to your Instagram, go to your X account, and you can see like you're doing a lot of cool on the ground interviews with people and hearing them out, what's going on with them, what's happening. What's that experience been like, and what is kind of the main things that are coming out as themes people are talking about over there right now?
So one thing I do want to say is that my marketing style, I call it creator marketing because I don't like to use the word influencer because I think it's a really cringy word. But when I first kind of started with Canada Proud, I said we need to capitalize on trending sounds and put them into TikTok style videos, but have it political to send a quick message to get the young people to want to be involved. And I did have people who have been in politics for a long time kind of criticize it and say, I think that's cringy. I don't think it's a good idea. And then we did it a little bit with Canada Proud. There was some like people, maybe older followers who thought it was weird. But then once I went fully on my own, I was like, this is working clearly. And I don't know if anyone really noticed, but after the DNC, Kamala Harris actually had a very big push with her campaign, and her PR team I will give them credit, they are very smart. And what they did was they invited 200 influencers to this event, not paid, I don't think, who knows, but just to give an authentic experience about being at the DNC. And then all of a sudden now there's all these trending sounds about Kamala Harris. And overnight, Kamala Harris almost kind of became the it girl, which I hate to say, but
Brat Summer.
This is a new style of marketing that people aren't really, I don't think they're grasping in politics yet. And I'm really trying to push it and make it come to life. But basically, what I'm noticing over here is that people seem to be receptive to it. I know that's not exactly what you asked me, but I just really wanted to touch on why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm just trying to bring in a different energy to politics.
Totally. And actually, you know what? Now you bring it up, we'll get to that my first question at a different point. My follow-up to that would be, like, you said it didn't work out, or didn't work at the beginning, and then you went out on your own and it started working. Do you find that when you were with Canada Proud, maybe it just wasn't the target audience was right for it?
They've already built up such an amazing, strong audience that I think, I don't think it's necessarily the wrong audience. I think it's just when you're following someone and you're used to seeing a certain type of content, maybe when you see a new face come in especially with me and the way that I present, I think a lot of people think I am a ditz, basically. So when you see that style of marketing with a blonde girl, it comes off as maybe cringy or like insincere, when really it's just trying to target people differently. So I think eventually people will become more receptive to it. But I think right now politics isn't used to seeing something like that. We do have a lot of American people who are doing things like that. And I think slowly, I mean, if I have to be the person that starts that in Canada, then I'm ready.
Let's go. I think you'd be the one to do
Yeah.
it for sure. Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of came to mind for me personally was when I was talking about this last week on the show, was right now, how do you force a vote of non-confidence? Well, the issue is the NDP base isn't going anywhere. The Liberal base isn't going anywhere. The only way you can convince the base to turn on their party is to realize all the corruption that's going on. And right now, some MPs like Michael Barrett and others, and Brock is another, are doing a good job of highlighting what's happening. Another MP, sorry, one here in Nova Scotia, we have Rick Perkins. Me and Reg affectionately call him Ricky Perk. And one thing that they're doing a good job of calling the corruption out, but the issue is it's just boomers who are watching this stuff and taking it in. So my big thing, I was talking to these MPs, even though they're not listening, is how do they actually get in front of a different younger demographic, the liberal demographic, to show what's going on? Like that's kind of what has to happen, is they have to get in front of these people and be able to present in a way that they will be receptive to it. And then you're able to do that. You can turn the base on liberals. You can turn the NDP's base on them and then force an unconscious vote sooner or later. Do you think that's a part of that?
Yeah. So I think a lot of Michael Barrett, I just have to say, I always say Michael Barrett does not sleep. That man is doing God's work. He's incredible. But to get young people involved, the problem is they're putting out clips, which is good, but you know, the podcast style clips where it's a very controversial, quick thing and it has the captions on it. You need to be implementing things like that so that people are like, wow, I'm really taken in. I really want to watch this. And now I'm going to go try and find the whole thing. So the problem with the younger generation is that the attention span has completely shrunk. So we need to put out quick, to the point content to get those people to actually pay attention. It needs to be slightly, you need that controversy to get people, to get that hook, to get them wanting to watch it. So my advice to people like that would be shorter videos and straight to the point. Because a lot of times I notice with the politicians, the candidates that I'm interviewing, is they have a lot to say and they want to say a lot. But the problem is that the more you say, the less people want to listen. You got to be able to say what you need to say as fast as possible and to the point.
Yeah. Fewer words, more impact.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. And I'll go back to my original question with you going on doing these on the ground interviews. What are some of the big things that are happening in BC right now? Like, what are like the big themes that people are consistently talking about as issues for them, being regular people in BC?
The biggest issue that we're faced with in British Columbia is that 7 people a day are dying of drug overdose. And so there's 22 people across Canada a day dying from drug overdose, but 7 of those come from just British Columbia. We decriminalized drugs. We had vending machines that had all the paraphernalia to do drugs in it. We are giving away free drugs. We have a van that goes around the Fraser Valley that drops off supplies so people can do drugs. It's really sad because they're trying to say that it's harm reduction, but it's not, because the deaths just keep going up and up and up. And then it's putting a tax on our healthcare. My grandmother was just in the hospital, and the amount of people that I saw coming in when she was in ICU at the time, screaming, going through withdrawal and overdose, but then they just go right back out and do it again. There's women who have actually been pregnant and come in and have their child and just leave to go back onto the street and do drugs. It's so sad, and they deserve a hope and a chance to get clean and have treatment and start a life and a family. And it's just really sad. And I love to see what Alberta's doing with the recovery model. And I really hope John Rustad does something like that. But he is talking about turning all of our safe injection sites into treatment centers, which I think is incredible. So I really hope that we can see that happen, because these people are really suffering and they deserve care and compassion.
What I find interesting about that is, I'll ask the question again, just in a different way, is when you're talking to people, is that the first thing that's coming out of their mouth, is like the drug issues in BC?
I think a lot of people, that is their number one issue. Also, we have some hospitals, the wait time will be up to 12 hours to see a doctor. So if you're bringing in your child to the hospital, that's way too long for anyone to have to wait. And John Rustad actually said recently, which I cannot say for a fact because I haven't looked into these stats, but he actually said on Jordan Peterson's podcast that the amount of people dying in British Columbia per day of drug overdose is equivalent to the amount of people dying per day waiting for a diagnosis or surgery. So there's people dying that because they can't see a doctor.
Right. Because that's like what I have found. I think, there's drug issues across the country, but it's very prevalent, I'm realizing, in BC. The other issues that are just widespread across the country are, you brought up healthcare, a big problem. But as well as housing is a big issue too. I just saw your latest video that you posted, talking to an individual who was like, yeah, I'm never going to buy a house here. Do you find like people are also bringing up issues of housing as well?
Yes, affordability is definitely a huge one. A lot of people basically have just lost hope on ever purchasing a home, which is so sad. I mean, I was very lucky and I purchased my condo 9 years ago and it was a really good deal. And I wouldn't be able to purchase it now for what it's worth now. I probably wouldn't be able to purchase it on my own. So and that's just a condo. So if you have a husband and children and you have a family, the chances are it's going to be very hard to purchase anything with the way things are going right now.
Totally. Absolutely. It just, it's a bit of a mess across the board, but we've actually received multiple emails from listeners in BC who really wanted us to talk more about the drug crisis happening there. I know Poilievre's done quite a few different pieces on it. And for people who, aren't on the ground there in BC, what do you want them to know about how bad it can be or how bad it is currently?
I've lived in the same town my whole life. And when I'd say probably 9 years ago, when I bought my place, not once did I ever see people outside using drugs. It was very rare to see anyone suffering. Multiple times I have had to call non-emergency in the middle of the night just because there's people just acting out down there. But I've also actually had to call 911 because I've overheard people overdosing. I've seen people with weapons trying to fight each other. I've seen a lot of things that I never really thought I would see in my hometown. And when I was in high school, there was one gentleman who was so sweet and he was homeless and we called him Redbeard. And he was just the one guy and he went around collecting bottles. And I don't even think he wasn't using drugs. He was just homeless. And it's just interesting to see how over the last decade, it's really gotten bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like me and Reg have discussed this on a variety of occasions, decriminalization. And, he's worked with people. He's, working for the NSHA here and just trying to address different issues. And what typically happens is, and this is clearly what happened with BC, is progressives will have these ideas and said, decriminalization, we're just going to roll with it and just implement it without really any real thought. And there's a version of decriminalization, there's stats behind it that can work. They just didn't do that for this. There's free reign for everybody. And it just got psychotic over there. Is that from, again, that's from a Nova Scotia guy who's been reading articles. Is that kind of what happened? Is they just kind of rolled this out willy-nilly and now we have the issue we have?
Yeah, it just seemed like it happened overnight. And a lot of people in my town, there's a conspiracy theory that they send people from different parts of Vancouver Island or from the mainland, ship them on a bus over because they're trying to get them out of their towns. How much truth there is to that, I don't know. They say they even send them from different parts of the country. But we do have a warmer climate here through the winter. So obviously that's going to be easier for them to live here. And we do have the shelters, we have the safe injection sites, we have the safe supply, and we had the decriminalization happening. And I'm still unsure what's fully happening with that, but they they seem to be, it doesn't seem to be helping anything. It just seems to be getting worse all the time. And then you have these people who are taking, people will deny this, but it's been proven. They take the safe supply, and they sell it. And they're like, oh no, that's not happening. But yes, it is. They're taking the safe supply, they're selling it. And now you're just attracting more people, mostly young people, because a lot of these shelters and safe injection sites are really close to schools, which baffles me. There's 3 schools next to the shelter that we have in the safe injection site in my town. And a lot of the people now that are starting to do drugs are younger people because they're buying them from the addicts who want the toxic drugs. And it's just attracting more people, creating more addicts every day. And it's the thing. It's insane. I don't really know what else to say about it besides it's really sad.
Absolutely. And you said you're coming up on an election there in BC. And your goal, it's like, we got to turn BC blue.
Yeah.
Because it's been NDP for a while.
The blue wave is coming. And the blue wave is actually, it's turning into a tsunami.
Is it? Okay. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
We're projecting to win a majority. So
projecting. So this is the question I was going to ask. So I know it's one thing I noticed when we were in Ottawa is like Ottawa itself is a big bubble. I've realized in terms of politics, and sometimes when you're, and I'm guilty of doing this myself when I'm in different situations. When you're kind of working on a project, you're just like, it seems like it's going a specific way, but it's just because you have your blinders on, you're not kind of seeing what's going on the outside. Do you feel like you're saying you got polls coming in? They're saying BC is going blue. They're ditching the orange, and which I don't think I've seen that happen in a long time out there. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time. Has he been NDP or Liberal for as long as I can remember?
So actually, what I will say is that 7 years ago, we had the BC Liberals who were basically the conservative representation. They were like true Liberals. That was the last time we had maybe a little bit more common sense happening. And then things within the Liberal Party seemed to have shifted and it was becoming more progressive, I guess you could say. And
something similar has kind of happened here where there was a lot of back and forth between the NDP and the Liberals, even here in Nova Scotia. Then it went blue, which was really interesting. And they won in a convincing fashion. You're saying that out there, it was something very similar, a Liberal NDP, but the Liberals were more of like a kind of center-left party that then turned into BC United. Like, can you tell me more what happened there?
Yeah, so I think that what they were trying to do was, because they always have been maybe a little bit more center to maybe slightly right. I remember last election, they did all the signs blue, which was interesting. They hadn't rebranded yet, and then they did rebrand to BC United, but the Conservative Party had come in, they had formed, and then they started making traction. And essentially the BC United had to fold because no one cared about them anymore.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So Kevin Falcon, the leader, he, after really fighting and trying to tread water, he realized that he couldn't beat the blue wave.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, I'll be kind of, when does the election take place?
It's on October 19th. So
coming up soon.
People can vote now, which is exciting. So I'm going to go vote this weekend.
There you go. We'll be keeping a close eye on it. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there.
Yes.
One last question I'll bring to you before we end is, you kind of were unsure if you want to get into politics and how you wanted your impact to be made. And there was a point in the summertime where we were discussing where you kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this at all. But a friend came to you and convinced you to keep going. Like, what was that conversation like?
Yes. It's a little bit emotional for me. I actually lost my grandmother, and things with my, with Canada Proud slowed down. There was a few life things that happened, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had imposter syndrome. I was like, why? No one wants to hear from me. I don't need to be here. And, my friend Kat Canada, she pulled me off the floor and said, I got you. And she was basically a gift from God for me. She's been such a great friend. And no matter what hour I call her, she will pick up. And she's helped me learn how to use the platform, how to connect with people. She actually has subscriptions, and she teaches people how to use the platform properly, because a lot of people are just using it just for fun, I guess. But she really has amazing strategies, and my account's grown 7,000 people in just 3 months. So her strategies work, and she's just such an incredible person, incredible mother, and just overall like a great friend. And yeah, we've had some good laughs over what people say about us.
For sure. Yeah, Kat's she's attracted a lot of attention over the years, for sure.
Yes.
But that's really cool that she was able to help out that way. And that's kind of what I've noticed with you. When we first met, you had a specific amount of following. You didn't even have an X account yet, really. I don't think, when we first met. And now, I checked it before we got on here. I was like, dude, she's over 7,000 already. She's killing it. So congratulations. I think that's a huge testament to the work you've put in. And then also shout out great friends like Kat who are able to help out. And I imagine, like, obviously she's gone through a lot of stuff on her end too. That I imagine she's trying to figure out, navigate.
Yes.
And
the left can't comprehend that there are people who genuinely care and want to work in this space and want to spread the message without getting paid by the government.
Oh.
So, we have people saying, just because now I'm connected with her, she was a Russian shill and she's paid, and then them saying that I'm paid because I'm connected with her. There's people that do full on threads, and they dissect every single part of your life. And I'm self-aware, so I know the hate that I'm going to get in terms of my appearance being like bimbo and like all fake plastic, all that kind of stuff. And I don't care about any of that. But it did take me aback when people started really digging into my personal life and finding photos of me and my LinkedIn and saying that, oh, because I've done content creation and worked for brands, that I must be paid by the government and all of this stuff. So it's quite interesting what the left will do to try and diminish what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that whole Russian thing with Kat was really wild. It took me off guard when I first saw. I was like, and I get there was chaos in the States over it, and there were certain creators that were actually connected to that news company, and that was backed by the Russians. But yeah, the fact that it's one thing to people on X to be like, the crazies, or it's like, yeah, she's a Russian shill. It's a whole other when an MP comes out and says it about you. Like that's crazy.
That was insane. But honestly, I'm so glad that it happened, just because it just showed how much of a nutcase he is.
Yeah, he's something else, eh?
He deserved every minute of that. And just the way they were heckling him in the house too. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, Kat, they're mentioning you in the house.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's shows you the impact you can have through social media and having conversations like this, right? I think it's huge. Yeah. And I think, as I said before, I'm really happy to see your growth and what you've accomplished and what you've gained through it all. And it inspires me to really actually buckle down on our X account to get to where you're at.
I was actually going to give you a lecture about like, no, we need to get you on X. We need to get you posting, and we need to spread the word, because your content is so good.
Oh, I appreciate that. It means a lot. It is kind of painful, because that's kind of like, I think it's on our bio on X where we're like, we're more popular on YouTube and TikTok, and it's just really funny, because we just haven't really put the time in on X. That's just the reality. We've put more of our time on YouTube, if anything. And
but you could just post all those videos straight onto X as well, and no censorship at all.
You know what? You're right. You're winning me over here, Brittany. You're winning me over.
we're Kat and I are like, we're getting everyone over there. And a lot of people in this space, they do get competitive with each other, but Kat and I always say it's collaboration over competition. Like we want everyone in this space to be thriving, and we all need to be working together, because at the end of the day, we all want to live in a conservative province, a conservative country. We want everyone to be thriving and doing well. And we all need to stop gatekeeping and start collaborating. So that's what Kat and I say all the time. So
Totally.
come on over to X. We will promote you. We will do whatever. And we want everyone there and everyone just thriving.
We appreciate that. Yeah, that's the big thing we appreciate, even in our relationship with Jennifer. Like, she's been fantastic for us and has done so much to help us in the political space in a lot of ways, introduced us a lot of cool people.
Absolutely.
And and so we appreciate all the help we can get from people such as yourself. So Brittany, before we close off, before we end, where can we find you? What are your handles? And give us one parting message for the Elevate Faithful.
My handles on X is at @by__Brittany. And on Instagram, you can find me at by.Brittany.
Fire. That's awesome. Go visit her, y'all. She's awesome. Got some great on the ground interviews. And last, any parting message for the homies, the people who are the thousands and thousands of listeners we have.
Basically, I guess what I want to say is I'm so happy to be here. And if you are thinking about getting into the space, definitely get into it. Do not be scared. I am such a baby in politics and I am learning as I go, but everyone is so welcoming. I'm learning as I go. You can too. And just get involved. Help your local candidates, MLAs, MPs. Spread the message. We want to live in a conservative country, and go blue.
1, 2, go blue. Way to be, Brittany. We appreciate your time, and our listeners really appreciate your time as well. I'm sure it was really great to see. Also, just hear from someone who is openly partisan. I think is really interesting. We have had people on the show who are kind of more, center and just kind of want to talk. It's cool to hear from someone who is partisan and kind of hearing the perspective. So thank you for taking the time to come on the show. It really means a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you being my first podcast.
Yeah, no problem. Whatever we can do, whatever we can do to introduce and make connections, we're out here. Really appreciate it, Brittany.
Yes.
Well, folks, that was awesome. Really grateful for all of you. So whatever it is you're doing, whether you be going to work or hanging out with your family, or I'm going off the wrong volume knobs, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are, we love you. We're out. Peace.